world and read these novels, if you take the time to leave a comment or two, I will be checking, and maybe you can end up featured in one of these live streams. So I did not pick one comment from every single chapter, because if I did that, then we would be here for a really long time, because there was 30 chapters. And so I picked a few comments from most of the chapters. And the first one, this is actually the top comment on chapter 1, and this is from Valer. So I wanted to give a shout out to Valer. And she said that she was not the first commenter, but she did get the top comment. And she mentioned that I wrote a chapter in the comment thoughts, which is true. If you go to chapter 1, I have this really long thing. The reason I did that is because there are some issues that I wanted to address in the very beginning, and then if these issues ever get brought up in comments later, I can just say go back and check my explanation in chapter 1. And she said congratulations, and she made this muttering joke, which if you go back and read the translator note in chapter 1, you'll understand what it's talking about. Now, incidentally, I wanted to point out this is a special announcement from Valer. She is actually going to be having a new novel on wuxiaworld very soon. And so I asked her what she would like me to say about it. And what she said is that she wanted me to mention that she's going to be translating Stargate Master of Time, which is written by Bai-ISSTH. And it was the #1 novel on the entire site on Xidian when it was being updated in Chinese. It's a modern setting where magic collides with qi in the life of the main character. She says, what would you do if cultivation and supernatural beings started appearing around you? Which side would you choose, if any? So look forward to her new novel. As was mentioned in the announcement today on wuxiaworld, wuxiaworld is now back in a business relationship with Xidian, which is the main site in China where all these novels are. It is the host or the home of all of the best novels, generally speaking. Not every single best novel in the world, but most of the really good stuff is on Xidian. So after a number of years of being at odds with Xidian, wuxiaworld is now able to do business with them again, and that's of course why my translation is happening as well. So that was Edvo's comment. This is from chapter 2, and I just thought this was a funny comment, and it also went into the muttering thing. It also mentions welcome back. So I do want to address also, it's been quite a number of years now since I've been on wuxiaworld. I was doing my own stuff, including this monster of a novel. And I have another novel that I wrote as well that's supposed to be coming out, I think, this year as well. So I've been doing a lot of stuff, just not translating. And so I'm happy to be back translating. And in a similar line, I wanted to thank Ludicrous Taoist. This was a very nice comment. And I saw a lot of comments of a similar nature, both in the chapters and also in the announcement on wuxiaworld earlier this morning. So I do want to say, thank you to everybody for the kind words and for welcoming me back. And I really do appreciate it. And I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to be hopefully, working on this novel for a few years. It's currently up to about 600, a little over 600 in Chinese. I don't know how long he's going to keep going. So who knows how long it's going to be. Oh, I just noticed how I have a green screen behind me, so that makes an interesting effect with the soda. Okay. Where did the rest of my slides go? Hold on a second. I have a lot more slides than this. Let me double check. Sorry, give me a moment, everybody. I have more than 4 slides, but it is saying that I only have 4. So let me double check about that. Well, no, this is really weird. I definitely have more than 4 slides. I'm looking at them right now. Sorry, people. Excuse me for this little hiccup. Give me 1 minute. What I'm going to try to do is I am going to... Can I duplicate it? I can't duplicate it. Oh, here we go. Sorry, everybody. 1 moment. Okay, I duplicated it, so I'm going to see what happens if... I'm going to remove that from the studio. I'm going to add... This will just take a minute, everybody. I apologize. Maybe because I closed it earlier. Okay, here we go. It's processing. All right. Cool. Okay, we're back. So this comment literally did make me laugh. This is from chapter 2. Pizza Mule says, taking out a rusty dagger from inside, he strapped it to his thigh. Then he equipped his black iron skewer. That's a quote from the novel. Then the comment is, I love how this sounds like every RPG ever. You just equip as much random garbage as possible to get some stats. Found, leather jerkin, equipped, rusty dagger, equipped, Chinese kebab skewer. That made me laugh. And incidentally, yes, this main character does not use a sword. It's not the typical weapon. His main weapon early on is a dagger and a kebab skewer, and then primarily the skewer is what he uses most of the time. In chapter 4, the Lord Viper says, I love the main character's decisiveness when dealing with enemies. No nonsense and ruthless. So yes, this main character is definitely, he doesn't beat around the bush. He is pretty ruthless. In number 6, same commenter, Lord Viper. I made a comment about my children. So I do have 2 children. One is age 7, one is age 2. And Lord Fire, I called my daughter a fireball of destructive energy, which she is definitely just way different from her brother, who was pretty chill. And he said, your daughter and my son, 1 and 1/2 year, are pretty similar. And then he also mentioned that the MC is the complete opposite of Bai-ISSTH. So for those of you who have read A Will Eternal, you know that Bai-ISSTH is a coward character who runs away from fights and doesn't care about much other than just staying alive. And the main character of Beyond the Timescape, Xu, he is definitely not like that. He is not a coward by any stretch of the imagination. And this is an interesting analysis from Slayer KH, mentioning that the main character killed 2 guys first time in chapter 4 and again within the first 10 chapters. And he says the story is turning out to be a lot more dark and interesting. And then he mentions the earliest kills in other Argon novels. And I guess if this analysis is correct, that Beyond the Timescape has the earliest kill. And it is definitely pretty dark and grim and gritty. There's no question about that. And in a similar vein, Kaining says, smashing the mirror in the first chapter, slamming the door on the girl's face, killing the first fatty. That's one hell of a MC here. He really looks promising. So yeah, we're going on to next one. This is from chapter 11. Okay, this is kind of dark and I hope I don't offend anybody here, but in chapter 11, somebody eats a dog. It's a kind of brutal and vicious scene, and the person doing the eating is a villain. And Fostek comments, eating her doggo, okay. And then sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. I know that you were in the last live stream. I'm not going to try to pronounce it because I don't want to mess it up. Let me know how to pronounce your name in the comments or something later so that I can know. But his comment was, where is PETA when you need them? Okay, I have to admit I laughed at that one. This one, somebody said that they love me, and I responded, I love you too. Hopefully Madam Deathblade doesn't see this comment. In chapter 15, what I actually wanted to talk about was the resurrection of the F5 sect. So for those of you who are real old school wuxiaworld readers, you might remember the F5 sect. And yes, the F5 sect has sort of made a comeback in this novel. I'm not sure how other novels are in wuxiaworld. I have not been checking comments on novels nowadays. This was a pretty funny comment. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but Zero Life Night Vision, this comment made me laugh. Basically said they weren't kidding when they listed the dangers of this forbidden region. They listed all the different things that could happen, and you do see all those things. So going on to 13, we're almost done here. The last Taoist in chapter 19 says, this was a very quiet and happy chapter, but based on my experience reading novels, this chapter was full of death flags for Sergeant Thunder. Not the violent battle kind, but peaceful death and sleep kind. I hope I'm wrong, though. Well, that's an interesting prediction, and you'll have to read the novel to find out what happens about that. And this one here, another comment from Kaining, I wanted to mention that the reason this comment was here is because in chapter 20, I mentioned that I was having surgery. And so I did have a surgery last Friday. It was an elective surgery, not a big deal, but it did kind of throw me for a loop for a few days. I'm pretty much, I'd say, back on my feet now, doing pretty well. But I do have another surgery coming up next month, and that one is going to also throw me for a loop. I will keep everybody posted on wuxiaworld about that when the time comes. I had to throw in the Lord Fifth comment, and also Penguinos, is that how you pronounce it? Said, I always love to read old men bicker. This just made me laugh. It was based on one of the scenes in the novel. This one also made me laugh because the same commenter, who I don't know how to pronounce her name, mentioned that this person in Chunfei Yuan, his name means villager A. So one of the new things I'm doing in this novel is I have my wife, Madam Deathblade, giving me cold reactions to the names of the characters. So she is Chinese from China. She scored top of her class in Mandarin in college, and she's not reading the novel. I'm just showing her the names and asking her to tell me what she thinks of these names, because as you know, Chinese names do have a meaning and a feeling based on the characters that make up the name. And so I'm including that information in the footnotes in the novel for all the important characters. And that way, I think it'll give the readers a little bit deeper understanding of or feeling for those characters and how they're supposed to come across to the reader. This is another one that made me laugh out loud. Taoist Sponge said, sometimes it takes a real man to be the best girl. Who says men can't be jade beauties? Show him, Xiuqing. So one character trait of Xiuqing is that he is extremely good looking. He doesn't really seem to realize that, and he doesn't care about it at all, but he's like amazingly good looking to where the girls are always just like falling head over heels for him, just looking at him. But again, he like doesn't care about it and doesn't even really understand it. So it's kind of a funny thing. And finally, this is the last one from chapter 28. Lil said, no, he isn't stinky, fellow Taoist. He is merely preparing his body to cultivate the myriad poison physique. You can't begin to comprehend the profundity of ritualistically rubbing the body with rotten leaves. So it's kind of funny. In the novel, there's a thing about him and washing. He hasn't taken a shower in a very long time. There's a reason for it, as explained in the novel. And when he goes into the forbidden region, he also cakes himself with mud and rotten leaves to disguise himself when he's going through the forbidden region. So, okay, that is enough for the VIP comments from the first 30 chapters. Thank you to everyone who's commenting. And for anybody who is going to be checking out the novel on wuxiaworld or who is in the middle of this mass release, please go ahead and leave a comment. I do scan through them all as best I can, and I really enjoy reading the comments, whether or not I respond to them. So I'm going to close this for now.